The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon and welcome to the webinar for Aging Alone, Solo Women Agers. And I am Deb Cardiser from 12 Points Wealth Management. And I'm joined by Joan Harris today. And my role at 12 Points is to help women align their wealth with their vision and their plan for their life. So helping multi-generational wealth transfers happen within families and really educating women about finances and wealth and how to take care of themselves, their families. And that's what this series of webinars is born from, is to help women become financially confident about what they're doing in their financial worlds and then in their lives as a whole. And I'm joined here by Joan Harris today. So Joan, I'd love to have you introduce yourself and talk about what you do and how you help people.
Yes, so first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to join you on this webinar. It's great to be here, a great topic to share with people. I am a geriatric social worker by trade for 40 years, and I'm an aging life care professional. I'm a private elder care consultant, which means that as a nationally certified care manager, I work for the older adults to really help them meet their goals. And in my practice, we work really hard to get to people early on to help them do a plan with an aging GPS plan. We work with people who already are having some issues with aging to support them to their goals. And we also support families in their caregiving roles. So it's all about how we support people to age well and bring them all the best vetted education and resources to help them to do that.
And I can say from experience, Joan is a tremendous guide and help for people and brings a very high degree of professionalism. And we've worked together on a number of clients. And so I know firsthand what she does and what she's capable of. So she's a terrific resource that people should avail themselves of if they have questions or anything else. But really, we wanted to get to, I see aging alone for women in particular as a difficulty. Women who are married and may have no children, those who aren't married and don't have children. But what this is really about is whether you are single, whether you have a spouse, at some point it's likely that women will be aging alone. And a third of adults in this country right now, 55 plus, are single. So, and 1 in 5 adults over the age of 65 is a solo ager. And obviously women are more likely than men to age alone. And this is partly due to just the numbers, but also due to gray divorce and the uptick in gray divorce. So that happening in ages 60 and up. And, you know, obviously women outlive men typically of the same age. So, you know, most of us are going to need care, even though we don't want to admit it. We're brought up to be independent, and we've all had careers and have been going along and can take care of most everything. Most women can, with a hand tied behind their back, managing themselves, their people in their world and their community, helping everybody. But, you know, cognitive decline is not recognized by the person who's suffering from it. Joan has helped me to see this and understand this really clearly. But we also look at research, and peak financial decision making happens around age 53, 54. So beyond that, people are still very capable, but we start to see declines at that point. And it depends on the financial task, but really peak decision making at age 53 to 54 means we should all be thinking around that age of what we're going to do and how we're going to help ourselves. So in terms of disabilities, by the age of 85, most people have difficulty moving or walking independently. They've got cognitive issues and declines happening, visual and auditory impairments going on, and 43% of 85-year-olds have difficulty living independently. So those are sobering statistics. So we're here to help you with this and help start thinking about a plan. So what happens if you're avoiding a plan? Really, it's a costly mistake if you are going to get yourself into a position where the court has to decide for you who will help you. So having roles in place, having it in writing is really a critical piece of all this. And we'll talk about that as we go along. But no one to help you means the court has to decide, and it's a process. Anything involving the legal system is costly and it's time consuming, and you don't end up with what you want. It's no longer your choice. And I want to normalize financial and emotional abuse, and they're different. And you can be a wonderful independent person. You can have command of everything going on in your life, and you can have somebody who is taking advantage of you emotionally. We see this all the time. It can be a family member, it can be a dear and trusted friend, but they're the person who keeps coming along with their handout, or they're taking advantage of you. Maybe they're taking your things, but boundaries need to be put in place here. And like I said, it is very, very common. And then, what's at stake? You're missing your opportunities to decide what happens to you and how, and to create the life that you want in your older years. And that involves your control, your comfort, and your dignity. So those are really important things to all of us. And we want to really drive home the point that making a plan and starting to think about it now is really important, whenever now is for you. Now is good. So we're talking about building a support network. And what we want to think about here is, who are the trusted people in your world? Now, for those who are single and may have children, often people feel the need to assign roles to their children. And, it usually starts with, I'll put my oldest in charge of the finances. I'll put the next one have them involved in my healthcare decisions. And people feel as though they have to do it a certain way because that's what's done. And I want to make sure that people understand really clearly that there are people in everybody's life who are untrustworthy or unsafe to involve in these key decision-making processes. And the more that you can be reasonable and real with yourself about who those people are and why they're not trustworthy in certain roles is really a critical part of this. So understanding who you have available, making sure that they're appointed in roles, and we'll talk about the documents that you need to put in place to assign these people and who you need. So.
Yeah. So I want to just thank Deb, because I think the emphasis on the planning is so important, because recently our association gave us a wonderful speaker on how scams are in this country very sophisticated in anyone, even without dementia, can fall victim. So having the right systems in place to make sure things are secure is just so important. So in talking about these rules, I wanted to highlight that I meet many older adults in their 80s who don't have a healthcare proxy, and then they don't have a power of attorney. And we know life happens, a sudden illness or a decline in cognition, which can happen suddenly for many reasons if it's kind of been happening for a while. So when a healthcare proxy, which is assigning someone to make decisions for you on your behalf, that you've already outlined your goals and what kind of decision making and treatment you would want, having someone who can carry forth your decisions is critically important. And a healthcare proxy can sit there and not be utilized until a moment in time when there's an emergency, and then it can be even temporarily activated. But having that trusted person, no matter what child in the family or what person in your life you understand and trust will work in your best interest to carry forth your decisions, is something everyone over age 18 should have. Having the durable power of attorney is really critical as we get older, because without it, if you're unable cognitively, physically to carry forth your affairs, then it's a big mess and nobody can do it. So having that in place so that your financial affairs, paying your mortgage or selling a home or signing a lease, for assisted living. Those things can all happen with the assistance of someone. And a durable power of attorney doesn't have to be activated. It's really a partnership that somebody can assist you when needed with finances. And I'll give you a very quick example of sometimes those proxies, which can be changed while you're still competent, are really important to be reevaluating and also making sure they're up to date. I believe many elder law attorneys that I work with say even every 3 or 4 years they should be looked at, the documents, because the rules change. I have a client in assisted living who now has cognitive decline, and she has 2 elder friends who are in the healthcare proxy role. One has resigned because they felt too overwhelmed by it. It became a very much a full-time job. And the second person doesn't feel that they can act in that role as well because they are older. If they resign, although she does have a power of attorney in place, then we have a big problem because we have no one, now that she no longer has the ability to make her own healthcare decisions, we have no one in that role. And what we don't want to see happen is people have to then go to a more costly and more restrictive guardianship or temporary conservatorship, those types of procedures that are really court-driven. You need lawyers, they take time, and they're much more restrictive. So when you have the healthcare proxy and the power of attorney in place with a backup that is viable if the first one isn't able to serve, you have the security of knowing you won't ever need those more extensive legal maneuvers for someone to then be in total control of every aspect of your life. So anyone that I meet that doesn't have these documents as part of our care management assessment, it's don't walk, run to a trust and estate attorney and get those documents in place because they will be there if you need them. Deb, can you speak a little bit about the co-trustee?
Yeah, so this is creating a revocable or revocable trust can be a really easy, seamless way to create this seamless management of your accounts and your finances. And the role of the co-trustee is you've created this trust. You can be the trustee as long as you're competent to serve, and you're appointing somebody that you trust to serve with you. So if something happens to you temporarily, you're after a surgery, you're unable to respond appropriately, you can't pay your bills for a few weeks, this person can step in and take care of everything in your trust for you. So having that trusted person there is really critical. And you can do a friend, you can do a professional trustee. Typically, there's fees involved with that, but you've got someone who's reliable, who has to act in your best interest. So finding that co-trustee is really important, and having that trust document can make all of this really seamless. And then theoretically, you never have to use that power of attorney. So it's a really easy way to have your finances continue to operate while you're alive with somebody else assisting you. So that's really helpful.
I love this slide because if I could get one message across, it really is to give the awareness that you want to have each of these types of professionals who do different things sitting at your table. This is your team, and they all have very unique roles. And if one piece is missing, then things aren't going to be in place and work well. So clearly, having someone like Deb Carter in your corner, who is really minding the store financially. I might do a plan for someone, but I'm not going to be able to advise the client what is financially sustainable, what they can do, what they can't do financially, and Deb can do that forecast. So having that financial advisor, obviously you're all here at 12 Point Wealth Management, is really critically important. The senior care manager is another word for a private care manager, and there's a lot of confusing terms out there. A case manager is someone who works for the hospital or an insurance company, but a care manager works for you. We can be your health advocate, go to the emergency room, make sure that things are done well, you're getting the care that you need. Everyone needs someone with them when they're having a health crisis if they don't have a support system that they feel can do that. Obviously, an estate planning attorney to put into place and to really keep an eye on all your documents we just talked about being updated, as well as looking down the road at how things should be set up to optimize your estate in the way that you want it. The CPA, obviously for taxes, is working in conjunction with the financial advisor. Daily money managers can be a wonderful addition to the team. As care managers, we don't engage and get involved in anything to do with people's money. But if somebody is struggling to pay their bills or to organize their paperwork for taxes because they have a cognitive impairment or they've been ill, a daily money manager is a wonderful partner to bring in to help just administer the month-to-month bills that need to be paid. And they will often go to someone's home and do that with them, because we never want to take away from people the things they can do, but getting a trusted partner to help make sure that your homeowner's insurance doesn't get canceled or something really important doesn't get paid can be a wonderful asset. And then, as Deb just talked about, the professional trustee. When I do an evaluation, when I meet people, I'm looking for where the missing pieces are. And there can be other types of professionals that we want to bring onto the team. But these, I think, are the critical pieces to make sure that your affairs really are in good order, and it can give you just tremendous peace of mind.
And, you know,
I just wanted to give one example, if I could, Dan, about a professional team. I just, as a care manager, I am starting to meet with people in their 50s who are aging on their own. And this is, I think, a growing trend that for someone like me who's been doing this a long time, we are seeing a lot more of. And we talked about a client of mine who is 58 years old, still works full time as an engineer. Her family is way across the country. They are not particularly close with her. And her trust and estate attorney said to her, you know, who's going to be your proxy? And she really didn't have anyone. She put her in touch with me. I'm now her health advocate, who is on board with her to keep in touch with her and have touch points quarterly so that if she has a medical emergency, she knows that I'm in the loop and I can step in and be there for her, because she did have a health issue that was really concerning her, that she didn't have anyone. So the trust and estate attorney referred to myself. And then in looking at her support system, it was clear that she needed a professional to take on the role as a fiduciary, as a healthcare proxy. And the trust and estate attorney became the power of attorney, and then her financial advisor, similar to Deb, became a co-trustee. And the peace of mind that she has, knowing that in any moment, if something were to change, she has all of this in place, was really important for her and gave her just, you know, the ability to live her life without worry. So just wanted to give that example for someone, because she had a health issue, it made her think, ooh, what if I don't have these things in place?
Yeah, and I think it's really key to have them all functioning together and communicating together. And so choosing someone to be the point person for this group of professionals, your team, is really, really important. And so I'm going to give another quick example. We got called into a case by two friends who were serving as healthcare proxy and durable power of attorney for an individual who was developing dementia rather quickly. And they came to us to serve as professional trustee. We're now advising on the finances as well. We've got Joan called in as the senior care manager. We're working with their CPA to make sure their taxes are being done and to really make sure that everything that's going on is all being communicated. So as we go to sell her house, we've got the CPA involved, we've got the estate planning attorney involved. Everything that happens on the care side, Joan keeps the team involved on, communication with the team on, and it's really important that we all know what the other's doing. So it's really coordinated care. And when this works, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I encourage people to talk about this. So in terms of the legal paperwork, I just want to talk about the will and revocable trust, and then I'll have Joan talk about the other pieces here. The will and revocable trust they may be separate. You may have just a will and not the trust, but those are critical pieces of information that need to be in writing, that you need to spell out what you want done with all of your financials, and then who are going to serve in roles. That can also be in there. You've got somebody who's going to be settling your estate, that's listed in there. But making sure, so as financial advisors, our firm goes over all these documents that you see under legal must-haves. We go over it with our clients every year to make sure that the person that's been appointed is still appropriate, that the language that we see in the documents is still up to date. So making sure you have somebody, whether it's your attorney, your financial advisor, someone looking over these documents on a regular basis to make sure they're up to date, and so that you as the client are communicating anything that's gone on in your life that may have changed. So go ahead, Joan, you can talk about the other pieces on this.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the HIPAA release because we already spoke about the healthcare proxy and the durable power of attorney. I love the visual because it really is having all these pieces in place. The HIPAA release is something that is needed because, for example, for every client we bring into the practice, we have them sign a release giving us permission to speak with any medical doctors. If we don't have that signed by them and they go to the emergency room, no one will speak to us. So in order for us to be advocates when people need us, we need to have that release in place. HIPAA laws are there to protect people. There's all sorts of dysfunction out there in relationships, and we always want to make sure that whoever is interfacing with medical providers is someone that the client trusts. So having that release ahead of time is really helpful. Otherwise, your hands can be really tied. Just really support someone.
Yeah, and one last note on the durable power of attorney. Excuse me. Sorry about that. We tell our clients to have this refreshed about every 5 years. And the other piece of it is financial institutions are very picky about having this document signed, their own form signed. Pardon me. So we'd advise you to go to your financial institutions and sign their form rather than use your own, if you know it's going to be invoked. So.
I hate when that happens.
And of course, the next slide's right. So as you're looking at your life plan and thinking about all the factors that you need to take into account as you're making your plan, this is a list that comes from a book called Solo and Smart by Carol Merrick. And it will show you the title in the resources section at the end. But these are the different facets of life that you really want to look at and figure out how you're going to establish this piece of your life and what you're going to do to support yourself in this area. And for each one of these, she has a list of questions to ask yourself and then to rate each area. So you may have a great place to live. You're living in an elder community, or a community that's really supportive. You've got friends that live nearby. Your housing and location might be a 10, but your purpose may be a 3. So maybe you've recently retired and you've devoted your life to work, and your purpose or where you're finding joy in life isn't really very well developed. So looking at these different aspects of life is really, really important, and encompassing them all in your plan. So if you're thinking about this and working on your plan, I would direct you to that book. It's pretty simple, but those questions she asks in each one of these facets, some of them are questions that I hadn't even thought of. So, and for instance, in support, you want people who are supporting you, but then how can you turn around and support others? Because there's great gratification in doing that as well. And I'm just going to highlight number 6, because none of these plans can exist if you don't have a really solid understanding about your money and finance and what you can and can't afford. And often we find with people that they can really support a bigger vision of their future than they originally anticipated. So work on that piece and make sure that you are really have a good understanding of whether or not your plan can be supported by your finances. And again, this is really a kind of a fun exercise, I think, and everybody can benefit from doing it. So I strongly advise you to take a look at that book.
I love that you're offering that, because in our Aging GPS program, that's exactly what we do. I find often that people have naturally, as we do in many things in life, we have bubbles of assumption about how things work. And I find when I sit down and talk with people and we do the visioning exercises to really hone in on what does that look like for you? What is the picture that you see? We want to burst some of those bubbles of assumption, and we really want to educate people about what it is that they want, but also what's out there. And my job is to then make a fit based on the financial advisor's information about what realistically is sustainable. So it's a complex equation that requires teasing out, number one, what are your goals? Where do you want to get to? Number two, what is out there that is going to be the fit for the kind of life that you want to have? And then always sending this to someone like Deb Carter to say, yes, this is something that is extremely realistic. I think where we come in as clinicians and as elder care experts is for planning, and this sounds a little corny, but some of the byways and the cross highways that you don't expect in life. And I think people can have tremendous peace of mind when they have independence, but gee, I had cancer 10 years ago and I'm worried, what if that comes back? What help is available to me? Where do I turn? How will that affect where I want to go? So really empowering you as a consumer to understand how you can get to the quality providers, what questions you should be asking, and what is going to be really meaningful for your life. So having purpose and engagement and connections is really the heart of everything we do, no matter if you're starting to plan or you're already in your mid-80s and you're having some difficulty. That is really where we want to get everyone to. So it is a road to making sure that you know everything that is appropriate for what your needs are, and also having those contingency plans for life's unexpected pathways that can happen.
I think another area that I've watched you shine, Joan, is in talking to individuals, and when we've talked about clients, even initially, understanding where they are, where their health is, what kind of diagnoses they have, or family histories they have. And then your ability to distill that down into practical steps that people need to be thinking about, or things they need to be doing to modify their living situation, or what they can expect going forward. That's been hugely helpful in some of the clients I've worked with you on. And it's something that I wouldn't have thought about. It's not my realm, but it's really, really helpful. So that's something that I think an aging life care specialist can really, really help with.
Thank you.
And then, we talk about loneliness and isolation, and ever since COVID, I think this is definitely more prevalent. And we all know that social connection is a huge component of our physical, mental, and emotional health. And, talking about building a chosen family, I think sometimes there's some, I don't know, maybe emotion around that phrase, but I think that chosen family often offers you a lot of strength that your biological family may not. So I think that the people who do build a chosen family, whether it's professionals or a mix of professionals and trusted individuals, it's really very powerful and helpful. And, as I was researching for this webinar, it was really interesting to me to read about all of the different living situations that are available and that people have created to support them in their older years, whether it's a Facebook group that started with a couple of friends and it's expanded to include their friends. I read about many of these communities where they've put together their own support network. So rather than living in assisted living, they've created this themselves. And it's sort of the DIY support group. And I think that's really fascinating and really helpful to keep people safe and secure and connected and really living out their vision for as long as possible without the need for institutional care. So I think that that's really, really important. And, using local senior connections and programs is really useful. And if you're too young for that, go in and volunteer now and then and just see what they're all about, because I think it could be really, really helpful to see. And then faith groups, it can be yoga and meditation. It doesn't have to be religious necessarily, but any kind of groups you can find along these lines to expand your life and expand your network are very, very supportive of better health. So I'm just going to jump in with the purpose here because it was meant to be on this slide and it wasn't. But this really, Joan introduced me to this new acronym, the NORC, and it's really what I was talking about earlier. It's these naturally occurring communities that are designed to help and support people for as long as possible without having to go to an institution of some kind. So tell us about these, Joan, and the different types.
Yeah, so NORCs have been around for a long time. It's not necessarily a terminology that's out there in the general public, but, I find that people really want to age in place. That is kind of where a lot of people start. It's more unusual that people say, I'm just ready to move. So we might have the backup plan of vetting the right retirement community if at some point aging in place just isn't benefiting someone. But, not everybody wants to move to a retirement community. So what is a NORC? So for example, a classic NORC is just a single family neighborhood where longtime residents kind of are all aging in place and not moving away and kind of helping each other, and they share resources. I think we saw that a lot during COVID. A vertical NORC is really more of an apartment building with a lot of older adults. I went into a building on Monday to meet a new client, and I looked around and I thought, oh, I just need to leave my cards right in the lobby here because there's a lot of older adults, and the concierge was really helpful, and there's a building maintenance person, and if they need a resource, they are able to get that. The transportation is there. So a lot of the reasons why people move to retirement communities can be kind of enhanced in apartment complexes that have those services and really are serving an older adult population. But then there are more formalized NORCs, like we'll give the example of Beacon Hill Village. Beacon Hill Village, or the villages, the Beacon Hill Village was the first village model where they have case management. So if somebody's out who's a member who is out at the hospital, they're going to reach out to them and say, what kind of supports do you need? Here's a home care agency that sees a lot of people in our area. So it is geographical, and you can look up the villages, but they have classes, so they have engagement. And during COVID, they did a lot online. They have a center where people come to. So it is a very robust membership into a community that offers more than stimulating classes, but socialization that way, but also some care coordination. And for members of that community and other villages, if you need a plumber or you need a handyman, you can call the case manager and they're going to get that for you. So those are the things that can be really helpful in people staying in their homes. There's a lot of options for people more in urban environments or suburban. Rural, is a little bit more challenging where you have small towns, because what we see often is young people have moved away. So you have rural areas where there are a lot more older adults, and they can be hard pressed sometimes to have enough resources to really support older adults, but we find that it's very grassroots. So it's just a term that basically states you can create layers of support in your home and have some of the benefits of a full service retirement community in your home. And so that's what some people are choosing. So I would definitely look into that membership if you are interested in aging in place. So Deb, did you want to talk a little bit more about the financial capacity, but I can just speak about the retirement communities. The options are really overwhelming to people, and I hear this all the time. And so I think there can be a benefit from having a consultation and understanding more what you want, and then understanding more deeply how every retirement community works, because they all work differently. Mm-hmm. And so having the right questions to ask about how do you move from the different levels, if it's a continuing care retirement community option, where you go in independently and then you have a supported environment you can move to, and they typically have a nursing home rehab on the campus. There are freestanding assisted living, so stay in your home and age in place and have some care, but then if you really need more support and you're not thriving any longer in your home, assisted living provides can be very high levels of personal care. So understanding how, number one, we can, with planning, keep people out of nursing homes. And I really want to let that stew there for a minute, because with the proper planning, we can build in the layers of support in a retirement community, even if you need more than what they're offering, or assisted living. So really understanding the different options and making sure that you are a fit with what a particular community is going to offer you will help you to make the right choice. So that even if you're choosing to age in place in your home, it is always smart to have that backup plan to know where you would go if, because you may get there at some point down the road, or life can change, as we spoke about. And now is the time when you're really able to do that educational piece and understand the differences between these communities, and go out and tour them. Go back for dinner. Really see if not only it has the amenities and services and the continuum, but is it a fit culturally? Is this a place where you're going to thrive and have the best quality of life? Because that's really what it's about. So I think getting some guidance to really understand your options could be really helpful, in conjunction with understanding your financial capacity for these options to be sustainable.
And the basis for all of this is your vision, obviously, is the very base of it, but understanding the financial capacity and really knowing what you can afford and not afford. And, you know, when we work with clients, it's about building contingencies into their plan. What happens if? How can we build a model that will talk about that piece of it, that will show them the impact of, yes, you can stay in your home. This is what it looks like. What happens if you suddenly need an astronomical amount of care? Can we bring that care into your house? Are you stable financially enough to do those kinds of things? And that can give you a huge peace of mind factor in doing your planning. And a lot of times we'll help clients who, we go through a process of talking about the goals and the visions for themselves, for the people they care about, for anyone they want to provide for, and really understanding what those are and the values at the bottom of it all. And one of the clients that I worked with a while ago was somebody who was widowed unexpectedly and had a big, beautiful house in the suburbs. Her kids had moved away. And what we found was she really wanted to live in the city. And it turned out that that was the perfect spot for her. She was engaged. She was young enough to participate. They had all kinds of options available to her that they didn't have in her suburban town. Food is delivered and medications are delivered and it's all at her doorstep. And living in a concierge building, she's happy as a clam, and it's really added a lot of dimension to her life. So just exploring possibilities and knowing who you are and what lights you up and what will make you happy, those kinds of things can go a long way to helping Joan and me help you better. So this piece I'm going to start with, and I've written an article on this that is about the annual financial checklist. And everybody, no matter how old you are, should have a master file of some kind, whether it's on your computer, whether it's in the paper file at the beginning filing of your desk drawer, whatever it is, making sure that you have this. Because guess what? Every one of us is going to die and none of us know when. So having this folder can give the people who are going to come in and help you a great deal of peace of mind. So everything should be listed on there. All the accounts you have, the passwords that you use to access it, your documents for your estate documents, and having all those in paper copies in your file is really critical. What are the sources of income that you have? If someone needed to take care of your things, they need to know where the income's coming from. They need to know how to get into your accounts. So if you're getting Social Security, if you have a pension, if you have an annuity, any kind of source of income should be listed there. Understanding what monthly bills you pay, how you get to them, are you doing it online, all those things. And then your contact list of your trusted people and what roles they fill, and your advisors. And Joan, step in and talk about the medications, the healthcare proxy, and the MOLST.
Yeah, so for our clients, we put together an emergency packet that has a vial of life form, which is a two-sided form. Deb, I'm happy to send it to you and have you send it out to people. But it gives the down and dirty, who your doctors are, who to call first, second, third, what your primary diagnosis are, your medication list, which should be updated but can just be attached from a printout from your pharmacy, and a copy of your healthcare proxy and any additional advance directives. The reason we put this on in a packet of information that's clearly labeled, either on the back of your door or on your fridge, is if a paramedic comes to your apartment or home, it's an emergency, and you're unable to speak for yourself, everything is there. If you have wishes about what kind of treatment you would want or not want, if it is not in that packet, paramedics legally will take full measures. The MOLST form, which is medical orders for life-sustaining treatment, which will soon nationwide all be called the POLST form. Every state is different, which is terrible. It is a form and it's bright pink, and your doctor's office has it, and everyone should have one. And you should go through it with your doctor and you both sign it. They explain to you the different types of life-sustaining treatment, and you check off whether you would want it or not want it. That could be a ventilator, a feeding tube. It could be even IV antibiotics. It goes through a list. A lot of people are familiar with the DNR, do not resuscitate. The MOLST form is more comprehensive. And the great thing about it is you can change your mind, you can rip it up, you can change it, it doesn't need a lawyer. But if there is a medical emergency and you don't have this form completed, you are not sharing with emergency medical professionals what your wishes are. These are hard conversations, and I think the biggest gift you can give your family or the proxies that you've appointed is to have these conversations and have a clear path for what you would want. So if they need to speak for you, they know what your wishes are. Deb is going to, I believe, has added to the resource list that's going out to you a wonderful free website that we send to all our clients called Honoring Choices Massachusetts. It helps you really understand this document and other documents, as well as how do you have those conversations, because they can be uncomfortable. But it really is a gift to your loved ones to have this form done and to have those conversations. So file of life, healthcare proxy, copy of the healthcare proxy med list, any advance directives like a MOLS form available. So if, God forbid, I always say, God forbid, you have a medical emergency, this information is readily available.
So the, excuse me, the cost of doing nothing is very high, and it's financially high and it's emotionally high. And what I want people to know is that you can choose not to move, but don't choose not to make a plan. The more you wait and the farther out you put your planning, the more likely you are to come up against an emergency or something that happens that's unforeseen, that puts you in a difficult spot. And when you are in a state of emergency, you've got far fewer choices than you would have if you had simply planned ahead. And my real life story is a client that I had in New Hampshire. She was a widow. She had 3 kids, one of whom lived nearby. Well, he was in Massachusetts, so somewhat close, and 2 others that were farther away. And she knew at the time that her children weren't financially responsible. And one of her children was financially abusive, probably, although it didn't come through very clear because she hid everything from us, from her other children, and she was slowly giving him way, way more money than, 1, he needed, and 2, that wasn't equalized with the other kids. But her issue was she had dementia that came on very, very quickly, and she had enlisted our firm to be her trustee, so we were able to step in financially, but she didn't make a plan as far as where she wanted to live or what she wanted to have happen to her. And it was very clear she couldn't stay in her home. So she ended up having to be moved in an emergency to the southern part of New Hampshire in a locked Alzheimer unit. Not at all what she would have wanted. And there weren't many choices available to her because at the time there weren't a lot of places and spots physically available that she could get into. So it was a sad story where a good amount of her wealth went to the wrong child at the wrong times because she didn't share what was going on. We weren't trustee at the time and we couldn't stop it, although we brought it to her attention. And she hid the dementia as well that was slowly coming on. So having a plan for these kinds of things and understanding who you want involved, who you want to be contacted. All these things give you the control that you want, the independence that you want, and really help you with the quality of life that you want to preserve and create for the future. So if there's nothing else you get out of this webinar, it's really the cost of doing nothing is significant to people. So planning can help you greatly. And it doesn't mean it's going to be perfect, but it certainly increases the odds that you're going to be cared for the way you want. So I want to encourage people to put any questions that they have in the chat. We have one question that I'll get to in a minute, but I wanted to just draw your attention to a couple of things that we thought were really important here. There's lots and lots of books out there, lots of websites and tons of information, but the one that I really liked to bring to your attention was the Solo and Smart book, just because it does go so deeply into those 10 areas and ask questions that when you can come up with the answers to, you can really enrich your life and your planning. And then the MOLST form is in the middle, and then the Honoring Choices Massachusetts is down below. So we will email that out to everybody at the end of this. And I do have one question in the chat, and it's, when should I start this process? So Joan, why don't you help us out with that one?
Yeah, so this is a question I get a lot when I speak about planning, and I think it's a really clear answer. Trust is not something we build with partnerships in a second. So now is the time to find people that you trust in these different roles, build these relationships so that at any time when needs change, you then have confidence in these partnerships. I think it's never too early is a very clear answer. For 40 years that I've been a social worker, I've always been involved when people are already really far down the road and it's crisis driven. An adult child will call me and say, Mom's in the hospital, she's been in and out 5 times, she can't live by herself, they want to send her home, what do we do? That whole scenario is common, and it's part of the day-to-day care management. Probably 85% of our clients have some form of a cognitive impairment. The sooner we can get involved, we can assess and we can then work proactively. Memory impairment can be slowed with the right medical treatment and environment. There's so much we can do for quality of life, and it's so pervasive. Or the supports are in place, so these repeat hospitalizations that take people way further down the road just aren't going to happen as much, and they're going to be much better, orchestrated. So I think that just life's unpredictable. Build your team and have the understanding of what's available to you so that you can have a much better outcome. So I would say the answer to that is start now.
Yes, I would echo that. And I think I also want to draw attention to what you said earlier, and that is that things change. Life is complicated. There are so many vicissitudes of fate that come our way that we can't plan for. But with the solid team in place, with an understanding of what it is that you're trying to create, it will go a long way to helping you to be able to speedily deal with these things that come up and have everybody on your team understanding and knowing what it is that you want to do and what you're trying to create. So communication, participation, thinking you can set this and forget it, it's not how it works, but just, and let the process be fun. I think this is a fun time of life. There's flexibility, there's exciting new opportunities, and it doesn't have to be, oh, which assisted living do I have to go to? It's really, what do I want to create for myself? I have time, I have resources, I have people, and what is it that I want to create? So that's the space I like to stay in, because it can be very exciting. So we want to thank you for joining us today, and our contact information is here on this last screen. And if you have any questions for either Joan or for me, please email us. We'd be happy to get in touch with you and answer questions or give you resources and help you to formulate your plan. So thanks very much for attending, and look for our upcoming webinars. We do them monthly, and the next one next month is it's something to, I can't remember the title, but it's something to the effect of my partner manages our finances. How do I get involved? So if you're interested in that, tune in next month.
That's awesome. Thank you, Deb, for having me.
Thank you very much, everyone.